Welcome to the World Financial Symposium's Market Spotlight webcast series. Today's conference will start in a moment. The WFS is dedicated to educating technology leaders through webcasts like these and the Growth and Exit Strategies Conference Series held in London, New York, Silicon Valley, and other tech and financial centers around the world. The speakers and sponsors of these live events read like a who's who of industry leaders. To learn more about our live events for CEOs, owners, and investors, or to access our library of on-demand spotlight webcasts covering markets like IT security, health tech, gaming, and more, please visit WFS.com. And now, let's join today's Market Spotlight webcast.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EdTech Rising, the transformation of the classroom, a special market spotlight for World Financial Symposiums. My name is Matt Rung, Director of WFS. Now, without further delay, I'd like to turn to our host today from the Quorum Group, Dan Bernstein, to tell us about our agenda today. Dan?
Thanks, Matt. My name is Daniel Bernstein, and I'm a senior dealmaker in the Seattle office of the Quorum Group. I've been here for 5 years, and I haven't seen a level of activity in the education technology sector before, such as the one we're seeing these days. 2 of the last deals I completed have been in EdTech, just in the last 6 months, and the sector as a whole is going through a tremendous transformation that is long overdue, as tedious paper-based processes are being replaced with IT-driven solutions. We have a packed agenda for you, including an introduction on some of the EdTech trends and ecosystem, and an M&A research report in EdTech, followed by a panel discussion by CEOs from 3 businesses addressing completely different and very unique markets within this space. A good place to start is with some of the verticals you see within EdTech. This is a space loaded with new opportunities. There are many more verticals than what we see here. This is just a sampling, including outside-facing websites with providers such as eSchoolView, which Quorum sold to Link late last year. We also have lunch and transportation companies that are making it easier for institutions to provide basic school services, teacher solutions that help teachers plan their day and lessons, college search websites that help students get into school, tuition payment and loan companies that enable students to apply and manage their loans online, and these players are disrupting the adjacent fintech space, and placement and recruiting solutions that help individuals get recruited as student athletes or set them up for specific industries when they graduate. Like any emerging technology sector, the EdTech market is highly fragmented, and this has been exacerbated by geographical and regulatory constraints, as well as the large number of disparate legacy systems that these companies have come to disrupt. There is a tremendous inefficiency of paper-based processes because of the late adoption of IT and very specific niche use cases to address point solutions. On top of it, there is a regulatory and compliance angle to consider. For example, school websites in the United States need to be ADA and COPPA compliant, and international expansion adds additional complexity. These verticals support companies through the entire student journey, as illustrated by this chart, from early childhood education all the way into corporate lifetime learning. Within each stage, there is a unique set of companies that address the needs of that vertical for that stage, either serving the needs of consumers by providing education products or the needs of academic institutions by providing SaaS solutions. Each stage comes with its own inputs and challenges and is related, but not the same as other companies in the ecosystem. Finally, each stage has its own customer constraints. For example, lack of funding in K-12 that limit IT adoption, or many small voc-ed institutions that are in business one day, gone the next. What you see is an immense market that is rapidly consolidating across all of these areas. In the last 5 years, the number of EdTech deals has gone up, but the average deal size has also increased. Niche companies have only so many opportunities for growth as standalone players. These firms are beginning to realize this, with some small companies merging and playing to their strengths, and large strategic players scooping up smaller firms that add to their competitive advantage. We're also seeing outside entrants race to grab a piece of the market, not just established education players, but also companies from outside the space. EdTech is on the rise, which, for entrepreneurs in this space, is both an exciting opportunity and a potential danger. At the current pace of M&A deals, it will not be long before we see a thoroughly consolidated market. Now, to look more closely at the trends and deals within the EdTech market, I'll turn it over to Stephanie Jensen from the Quorum Research Team.
EdTech M&A median deal size has continued to grow over the years as seen here, reaching $24 million in 2018. Other metrics, such as deal count and total disclosed deal value, were robust in 2018 compared to the previous year. Looking at exit values and the median sales multiples in the sector, we saw a dip in 2016, but they have since grown and surpassed previous highs. This was a spectacular rise from just over 1 times revenue to over 4 times in the last 2 years, creating the highest values in recent history. This rapidly consolidating market segment has seen dramatic increases that we expect to become even bigger. Much of the innovation in this segment has been hampered by legacy systems. We're now seeing changes, including the widespread adoption of cloud technologies and SaaS. Digging into the top financial acquirers between 2013 and 2018, Insight Venture Partners made the greatest number of acquisitions, adding 22 companies to its portfolio. Providence Equity came second with 20 acquisitions, and then Vista Equity Partners with 19. Actually, Quorum is currently closing a transaction with Providence. Vista Equity will be our guest speaker in San Francisco, and Alpine spoke just last month at another Quorum-sponsored event in Seattle, the World Financial Symposium's Growth and Exit Strategies Conference. These top EdTech acquirers are followed by many other firms that are investing heavily in this space. Quorum has sold companies to all of these buyers, doing multiple transactions with many of them. As a top strategic acquirer between 2013 and 2018, Blackboard landed 12 deals, followed by Constellation and Frontline Technologies with 9 acquisitions each. In recent annual sellers panels, speakers included CEOs who sold to Constellation and also Chegg. Mark Miller, COO of Constellation, was just at the Seattle WFS last month. EdTech acquisitions for over $1 billion included the purchase of top acquirer Frontline Technologies by Thoma Bravo for $1.2 billion. Ellucian, which provides enterprise information management software, was acquired by TPG Capital and Leonard Green Partners. Soft Skills was purchased by Charterhouse for $2.325 billion. Vista Equity Partners purchased the educational business of the Advisory Board Company, which provides research, consulting, and systems integration for the education sector. Lynda.com, which provides online video-based educational courses for businesses and consumers, was acquired by LinkedIn for $1.5 billion. And finally, Renaissance Learning, which provides monitoring and assessment software for collaborative learning, math, and reading, was purchased by Hellman & Friedman for $1.1 billion. Before we dive into some of the standout transactions in this space, Dan, why don't you start us off by telling us about your recent EdTech deal?
I sold eSchoolView to Link late last year. eSchoolView enhances Link's position as an end-to-end software provider with its website and data collection technologies custom fit for the K-12 school market. We'll hear more from Adam, the CEO of Link, in just a little bit on our panel.
Thanks, Dan. Looking now to other interesting transactions within the EdTech space, Cambium Learning Group acquired vKids Holdings to provide online education, curriculum enhancement, and related supplemental content for homeschooled children and the elementary education sector. Education Networks of America purchased Catch-On, which provides network analytics and administration SaaS for educational facilities. JMI Equity scooped up Raptor Technologies, which provides visitor management, sex offender screening, student tardy tracking, school security, identity management, volunteer management, custody screening, contractor management, and emergency management SaaS for the U.S. K-12 education sector. Turnitin acquired Gradescope, which provides AI-based assignment management SaaS for schools and higher education instructors. Next Tier Education, which provides SaaS to secondary schools to help students research and apply for college, was picked up by Follett Group. Common Bond acquired NextGenVest, a financial advisory service based on text messages that connects college advisors with prospective students. Cheddar purchased RateMyProfessors.com, a web-based platform for rating college professors. ParentPay Limited acquired SciPad Limited, which provides web-based catering and maintenance management SaaS. Dorian Business Systems, which provides record management SaaS for businesses in the music education sector, was acquired by Great Hill Partners. And finally, TrekSoft purchased Waldhart Software, which provides booking management software for winter sports schools and therapy practices globally.
Thank you, Stephanie. Nice work. I'd like to now turn to our panel of industry luminaries to dig a bit deeper into the market opportunity. We have as our guest today Ritu Gupta, founder and CEO of CircledIn, Dina Rosenheim, former CEO of Planet Software and a recent seller, and Adam Hooks, CEO of Link, a strategic buyer in the EdTech space. Let's first turn to Ritu Gupta of CircledIn. Tell us a bit about your company. What problems are you tackling?
CircledIn is like LinkedIn for students and colleges, only better. It's an award-winning online profile and portfolio platform where students compile all their activities and accomplishments, everything they do both inside and outside school in 7 different categories, from academics to sports to music. They can upload their media files and they can share it with whoever they want to, showcase themselves in the best possible way, and increase their success rate for all applications, from college, scholarship, internship, summer job, everything they apply to. With CircledIn, we are putting students at the center of the circle and bringing the whole ecosystem together. For example, on the left side, we have K-12 schools who use CircledIn in their classrooms, so teachers can know students better and faster and more quickly. On the right side, we have colleges and universities who are using CircledIn to find the best fit candidates for their institution based on this detailed portfolio, so creating win-win. The company was born actually from a personal pain point. I'm a mom, and when my older daughter was applying to a middle school, it took me 3 weeks to put her application together, and I wasn't sure what would click with admission officers. So I emailed them various things like writing sample, science fair project. Eventually, she was accepted, and I lost access to all that work that I had done. Next application, start all over again. So that got me thinking, you and I have LinkedIn. Shouldn't there be something for students where they can compile everything they do over the years, keep it with them, and anytime they have to apply, they can just simply share using the link like you and I do for LinkedIn? I didn't find anything, so I decided to make one. Hence, CircledIn was born.
As the CEO of an EdTech startup, what do you see as some of the strategic drivers in this space?
I think education technology or sector in general is literally coming out of hibernation. It has suddenly woken up and it's like, oh my God, I need to be in line with the rest of the world. In 10 years' time, according to a survey, college admissions will not have a traditional application process at all. Everything will be based off of what is out there about you as a student on internet. Colleges are moving away from SAT, ACT to a more holistic view of candidates. Over 1,000 colleges have made SAT, ACT optional because skill sets needed to be successful in workforce is not what it used to be 5 decades ago. We are not building widgets in factories anymore. So higher ed is also coming in sync with the needs of new workforce, more focused on soft skills, leadership, innovation, and creativity, skills like that.
What are your thoughts on consolidation of the EdTech market?
I think since the space is just coming out of hibernation, there are a lot of players in the market to serve this market. And consolidation will happen. I think it will take some time. Right now, there is a significant changes happening where education is embracing 21st century technology, especially in placement and admissions. So probably in like 7 to 10 years, consolidation will start happening.
What do you think the future of schools looks like?
Future of school? K-12 is in for a big ride in next 5 years or so, with a transition into project-based learning, not just textbook. I think we are going to bring more life skills into the classroom than just teaching them derivatives, and integrations that you never use in your real life. On higher ed side, I think the whole existence of higher ed is in question right now. Last month, I was at a conference, Shaping EDU conference at Arizona State University, and this viability of higher ed was broadly discussed. Why does a student need to go to college to get a degree, pay hundreds and thousands of dollars, and come out the other end with a massive student debt and still no job? What is the ROI versus taking some courses online? I think higher ed has a lot of work to do on this point, not only from technology innovation point of view, but also running more efficient and optimal operations, modernizing their processes, and reduce tuition. For example, if you just look at the placement and enrollment tech, higher ed spends anywhere from $10 to $100 billion using antiquated marketing techniques, with only 1% return, meaning 100 students that they reach out to, only one ends up enrolling in the institution. So why not bring recruitment and admissions to 21st century with platforms like CircleIn? Find the best fit candidates, reduce your spend, improve results, and best of all, create win-win for both universities and students. That is what the future will look like. That is what higher ed will look like.
Very interesting. Thank you, Ritu. Let's go now to Dean Rosenheim, former CEO of Planet Software. I recently worked with Dean on his company's exit as a bolt-on to QSR in Australia. To start with, can you tell our listeners a bit about Planet Software?
Planet Software has been around for about 20 years as a software developer. We stumbled upon a relatively narrow vertical market about 10 or 15 years ago, university placements. Placements can be based on work experience, where a student goes out to learn how to be a professional and or previous curriculum. There might be an internship where the student finishes their degree, but they go off and must show proof in the industry. And how you measure, or do you know that the student is doing the appropriate placements for their degree, or what's appropriate for the university? You don't want a student going somewhere that's dangerous or may create issues for the university.
From your experience, what have you seen driving the EdTech space?
We see a lot of universities moving to the cloud. So when they're looking at our software, the first thing they ask is it cloud-based? Duty of care is also important. That is where a growing expectation that universities will always look after their students' well-being during their placement. Historically, placements were done in pieces of paper, spreadsheets, or even people's diaries, all sort of planned in fairly ad hoc ways. And the data was not always very accessible to the rest of the university. Nowadays, universities recognise the value of understanding this data, and so the concept of storing it in a corporate database or somewhere central is a big deal. Finally, experiential learning and online learning is important. Universities are going to models where the students are earning their degrees remotely.
In your eyes, what is the future of education like?
My summary for this would be, there's an app for that. There's a generation of students coming through that expect education to be in an app. But I think that the real future of learning is remote learning and how higher education extends into the workforce. So you get a job, you start working, and you do learning at the same time. I can see this extending well into professional work. For example, say you're a researcher doing science work in the petroleum industry, and your company gives you 3 weeks to study the latest in biotechnology or something like that, and those studies will integrate with your work instead of going off to study at the university. Continuous education and lifelong learning, probably the way that things are heading.
That's great insight. Thank you, Dean. I'd like to go now to our final panelist, Adam Hooks, CEO of Link. Adam, can you give us some background on Link?
We started right here in North Carolina. The original founder was a CFO within a small school district here, saw an opening for IT services that we ended up providing. It was very new at the time, and he started doing this directly within child nutrition. That led us into other areas like finance, accounts payable, payroll, etc. And just expanded all the way out from there. Broadly, the problem we're solving for schools is that we're fixing a lot of electronic document management issues. The whole paper trail aspect of K-12 and the education space has been a nightmare, whether it's in the student space, curriculum, HR, onboarding, student registration, tons of paperwork, and that's the process we're trying to streamline.
What are you seeing give rise to EdTech?
At least 80% of the school districts are using some sort of cloud-based solution that's being driven by a couple of different things. Younger parents are expecting more online options, and administrators are needing more real-time access to their data. The other big item that we're working on is data analytics. This is about making better real-time decisions for school districts. Looking more broadly in the EdTech space, you'll see the individual learning plans are driving business to focus more on curriculum and also individual student needs.
What's happening on the buy side in the EdTech space?
The main problem with a lot of K-12 institutions is that they are the most underserved sector from a capital perspective. There's some heavy hitters coming into and picking up a lot of the smaller guys. This is a concern for a lot of districts because too much consolidation means the big guys get to control the pricing points. Local school funding has to pick up that cost. We see a lot of consolidation along the lines of ERP, payroll solutions by the giants like Oracle and SunGard. The problem with that is their solutions are not well designed for smaller school district needs.
Are there still inefficiencies in your space that need better tech-based solutions?
IT can actually create a lot of inefficiencies because most districts are not up to speed and are very slow to adopt these new technologies. Trying to implement a new technology you're not prepared for can be quite risky. For example, document management is a technology that's finally gaining traction, but implemented wrong simply just adds layers of complexity. However, take mobile apps that we design and deploy within our IT. You're not running payroll from your couch via an iPad. That's an example of an efficiency we're trying to bring into the space. Moreover, utilizing single sign-on for multiple applications, staff can go straight to the district web page and do more work directly from a single school website.
What do you think the future holds for education?
Unfortunately, public schools are failing the everyday student. As a result, the growth of online education will become even more important in conjunction or as an alternative to the private and charter schools. Every student's going to end up with something specific and a plan which is augmented by virtual reality or some sort of augmented reality experience.
Finally, and this might be a tip for some of our listeners looking to do business with your company, what's next for Link?
Historically, each solution within our space was very siloed, so integration is very important, where everything is accessed from one spot and tailored to your needs, whether you're a teacher, athletic director, student, or even the superintendent. That's what we're aiming for as part of our rollout, where technology is allowing for transparency from the student all the way to the parent level, building an application where everyone in the K-12 space can communicate with each other seamlessly.
Really great insights. A huge thank you once again to our panelists, Ritu, Dean, and Adam. Taking a bit from everyone's unique perspective, I'd like to hone today's discussion down to a few takeaways. Tremendous inefficiency of internal paper-based processes, late adoption of IT, multiple niche use cases of technology to address point solutions. Each stage comes with its own inputs and challenges. There's a correlation across markets and ecosystems. Each market has its own customer constraints, and competition is fierce. Consolidation is rapid. There's a lot going on in EdTech. It's a perfect storm of inefficiency of archaic processes, multiple vertical solutions, and use cases from early learning to adult education. There's a lot of consolidation happening here, and we're just getting started. As EdTech continues to transform education, in-home learning, AI, and virtual reality are going to be the next frontiers. No company is too niche to not get noticed in this market. So if you're one of those, do you have an exit plan? Are you paying attention to who the buyers are? Unfortunately, innovation and consolidation walk hand in hand, but only in one direction. So don't miss your window. Now back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Dan. That was an excellent presentation. Let's turn now to our Q&A board and see what our audience has to say. The first question is for Dean from Planet Software. Dean, what advice do you have for the CEOs on the call who are considering selling their company?
Well, first thing, get help. We didn't know how important it was to have a competent M&A attorney and sell-side advisor through this process. There's so much that goes into it, finding potential buyers, messaging, due diligence. I couldn't imagine doing it alone. The other is to review your level of entanglement with the business. Know how to separate your business from personal things like car leases and personal expenses. Obviously, that makes life a lot easier, knowing that your market and understanding your value and well ahead of time is important as well. What really got us was gathering information beforehand in the preparation phase. This is when you need to get your advisors and attorneys involved early in the process. The final bit is to be prepared to be totally distracted from the business for weeks on end and the stress during that time. As long as you realize that it's going to happen, it's good to look back and say, well, that was a great ending.
Actually, I'd like to turn that same question over now to Adam from Link. Adam, from a buyer's perspective, what do you like to see from a company you'd like to acquire? And what advice do you have?
Bring clean books up front. Before you start this process of selling your company, take the time to really remove some of those personal items. There's some privileges you can take with being private, but as you prepare, clean those things out. That will make everything a lot easier. The second is take the time to define and write down a list of defined corporate processes so it's easier to decode what your company is doing. From the way calibration happens, to the way the phones work, to how you manage your payroll, if it's defined, let us know. It simplifies the integration and helps with collaboration. A critical one is don't hide anything in the closet. It's going to come out whether you want it to or not. Hiding it simply makes it worse. And finally, identify from a product perspective what the fit is. If you're not complementary or you work on a different tech stack, it's going to be harder.
Thank you, Adam. And thank you again to Dan, Stephanie, and Ritu for joining us today. This has been an excellent Market Spotlight. A quick note about our upcoming events. Our next Growth and Exit Strategies conferences will be in New York on June 18th and San Francisco on September 17th. We have some fantastic speakers joining us. Check out WFS.com for details and registration. Now, let's go to our close.
We hope you enjoyed today's online symposium. If you have any questions not answered, please submit them to info@WFS.com. We look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming live events in a city near you. To register for these live events, view upcoming webcast topics, or hear rebroadcast of this or other Market Spotlight events, please go to WFS.com. Thank you for attending today's webcast.